Welcome to CosmoFactory, a podcast by Cosmoprof Worldwide Bologna, where we explore the entire cosmetics, personal care, and fragrance industry supply chain. I'm your host, Deanna Utrusky, and here at CosmoFactory, we look beyond the trends to discover the ideas, initiatives, and innovations that are truly advancing beauty. Let's get started. This episode is about the transition to a circular business model. It's about benchmarking sustainability and making measurable progress towards circularity. It's about developing and manufacturing cosmetic products for an international market. It's about ingredient and packaging choices that make a noticeable difference. And it's about communicating environmental sustainability measures to the end consumer. My guest on the CosmoFactory podcast today is Alain Mavon, Vice President of R&D and Sustainability at LUMENE Group. Welcome.
Thank you. And yeah, it's a pleasure to explain a little bit our journey towards circular beauty, basically, in short.
Very good. I'm looking forward to our conversation. LUMENE Group, I believe, was founded in 1970. So I'm hoping you can just get us started by sharing a bit of background on the company.
Absolutely. So LUMENE Group is, we are a Finnish company. We are located in a city next to Helsinki, the capital. It's a 100 million euro sales company. So we are growing at the moment. It's a house of three brands. We have LUMENE brand, part of the LUMENE Group, developing beauty products, skincare, hair care, and color cosmetic makeup. Another one, CUTRIN, which is more focusing on professional hair care. And the last one is Idawari Beauty. We acquired this company last year. It's also hair care and self-tan, but more like a Hindi brand with very nice, a different mood, a very colorful palette, and also very much driven by the sensorial. So a lot of strong fragrance and smell on the shampoo, conditioner, and then obviously self-tan, which is also quite trendy in the Nordics countries, north of Europe.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. You reminded us that LUMENE Group is based in Finland, and we know that country is a leader in sustainability. I want to take just a second and also mention that, back in episode 6, I got to speak with Johanna Ronka, the CEO of a company called Nordic Beauty Inc., which is also in Finland. And in that CosmoFactory episode, she shared some insights into sustainability and Finnish culture. Can you share a little bit about why we think of sustainability when we think of Finland? What's the connection there?
Maybe first, Finland is a small country, 5.5 million inhabitants, but a huge country with a huge forest. Its nature is everywhere. And I would say, coming from France, in Finland, you don't have, maybe the resource were not as available as in a country like France because of the climate, for example. And people has been for a long time mindful with the resource they had in the hand. It's also not like Norway. There's no oil in the soil. There is no, the resources are, I would say, quite limited. So people have to innovate, think
Yes.
differently, and be definitely mindful with the existing resource available. So I think, and that's my view from as a foreigner, I think that's where it comes from. That's where it comes naturally to think sustainability when you develop product here in Finland. That's also why I was attracted to join Lumene.
Yeah, sure. No, that makes sense. At LUMENE Group, you lead both R&D and sustainability, and each of these I think we could call a framework for innovation. I'm hoping you can talk with us about where R&D and sustainability intersect in your work, as well as where those two objectives might diverge.
Yeah, absolutely. They are intersect. I would say almost every day when we develop formulation, when we think packaging, how to make um, the end of life of the product easier to the consumer with these mono materials, for example, on the packaging and so on. But obviously, sustainability is not just in R&D, it's also covering all the aspects of the company. We have our own manufacturing, so sustainability is important here. We have also a strong social pillars, which obviously sustainability is part of it, all these ESG topic and all the governance. And the Nordics country are quite respectful of the rules and so on. So we have a very strong sustainability strategy, which span from obviously on the entire company, also how we interact with the community and how we can give back. We have, for example, an initiative on supporting the restoration of wetland. This wetland has been very much impacted in the past by the forest industry, but wetland are very important carbon sink. So, and it's also where many of our ingredients, these different berries that are specific to the Nordics are growing. So it's also giving back to nature, because nature is giving us a lot. So we need to give back. So that's where, yes, sustainability is all across. But definitely in R&D, it's a core part of our development. I would say, let's say, the concept of eco-design, and moving further on your question towards circularity, that's also something that is coming straight into the middle of the discussion while we're
Yeah.
developing our products.
Yeah, no, very good. You've been in the role you have now, I believe, for about 3 years, and as we've made quite clear, you're very focused on transitioning the company to what we would think of as a circular business model. And this is an objective that many brands and beauty makers have, at least as a distant goal. At this point, though, I would say that circularity is an ideal. And so I'm wondering how you get started on a goal like this that is really quite ambitious. Where do you begin?
I came, so yeah, 3 years ago. I had a background also in a previous company, more on the research, but already involved into sustainability. And Lumene was positioned at that time as kind of a pioneering sustainability and circularity, as we were using, and we launched our first upcycle ingredient in 2001, so 23 years ago, where I think today it's quite trendy to speak about upcycle ingredient. At that time, it was not. I think the word itself was probably not existing or just created. But it was a leftover, a side stream from food industry where that was developed. It's a cloudberry seed oil, so extracted from the seeds that were burned, or the leftover from when you extract the juice, you have the leftover.
Sure.
And these seeds were burned. So it was probably a good idea to extract the oil, which is extremely rich in different omega-3, omega-6 free fatty acid, also beta carotene. And we use this ingredient since more than 20 years in various products.
Yeah.
So that was one way, the start of the journey. Today we have in our portfolio about 50 different Nordic ingredients, and about 30 are not only all Nordics, but 30 are upcycled. So it's something we are formulating regularly. But also packaging wise, we started the journey to modify and reduce, basically try different initiatives. But the ultimate one at the moment, we still need some pack to carry our formula, to protect our formula, make them available to a consumer. So the best way to be more circular is simplify the complexity of the formula, of the pack, monomaterials, easy to recycle, and reduce the way in particular. Then how to move from pioneering to leading. We basically find a way to quantify, measure how much circular we are.
Yeah, tell us about that. It's super interesting.
Yeah, because in a way, if you think circular, it's a kind of a circle. So in a way, how far in the circle are we? Closer to 0% circularity or more 100%? And there is a number which has been published 2 years ago. It's coming from the Circularity Gap, which measures the circularity of the global economy. And this number is 7.2%. So from there, which means, meaning the global economy is 93% linear. And linear, this is the business model that most of us are in. We take, we make, we consume, we waste. And we know that unfortunately, the consequence, the planet is suffering, global warming, excess of pollution and plastics everywhere, up to the ocean, and biodiversity loss. So we need to shift to something more respectful, and circularity and the concept of circular economy is different. Is, I think, one of the relevant options. And to move from linear to circular, it's not something that happened overnight. That's where we use a tool called the CTI tool, which is CTI stand for Circularity Transition Indicator. And there is a set of indicators, and the tool, it's a software that has been developed to facilitate your calculation and your measure. So in a very short, we took plenty of data from the company on the raw material side, on the pack component side, what is the type of energy we use in a factory, 99% renewable sourced, the water used in the factory for the products, for cleaning the vessels and so on, all the marketing materials, and then what's happening at the end of life of the product, biodegradability of formula, recyclability of packaging, and so on. Altogether, we had about 300,000 data points, and we ended up with one number, which is our percentage of circularity, and we are 55% circular. That's the data on 23. So we can't exactly compare with the 7.2 of the global economy because it's not exactly the same tool, same calculation. But roughly, we have an idea that we are quite advanced, I would say, on that journey. Not much benchmark in the world available. We want to be open and transparent. So we have communicated this number into our sustainability report. But mainly it's for us internally. It was really, and what I was very amazed, it helps people on all the employees, even up to the people in the factory, to understand what does it mean being circular, what does it mean being better, where we can impact and change and improve. We have set now a target to be 70% circular by 2030. So now we know how to measure. We know where we can make some change, review, and improve our eco design and impact our circularity. We are also going down to the calculation at the product level. So we have very interesting discussion then with our marketeer. And the aim at the end is to improve and find and switch from ingredients that are coming from the linear flow, and can we switch to something else. I will take an example which was pushed by the regulation in Europe. We have been the two silicones, D5 and D6, has been banned, so we have to remove them.
Sure.
But silicones are typically linear, they are man-made, and they are not biodegradable. So they are typically on the linear flow. By removing them and switching to naturally derived ingredients, we were able to first, we had a mandatory and a regulatory demand to remove them, but we have improved the percentage of natural ingredient in formulas. This was in makeup, some makeup products. Improve about by 10% more natural ingredients, but as they are more natural and coming from renewable source, they are more circular.
Yeah.
So it's this one was a pressure. So now we are pushing ourselves to be ahead and improve by challenging us on the ingredient, the raw material we use, similar to the packaging.
Yeah,
Example, switching from aluminium. We have different airspray, we have etc. So now it was slightly more expensive, but not much. But now we have transitioned to more recyclable aluminium. So it's falling onto the circular flow rather than the linear flow. So
Yes.
stop using virgin aluminium.
Yeah, no, thank you for all of that. That's very helpful. And when you first mentioned sort of benchmarking where you were at, or looking at where the world is at in terms of our transition to circularity, you mentioned this circularity gap report, which I know is an initiative of the Circle Economy Foundation, which is based there in the Netherlands. And then you mentioned this CTI tool. Is that also a product from the Circle Economy Foundation, or is that unrelated?
It's quite connected. It's initially, and this tool is, it's called, I think, Circle IQ, the startup that developed that. There is a free version that anyone can use. You don't have all the functionality in versus the paid version, but you can already do a kind of a rough estimate of your circularity using the free version. So it's available. It's again, there are probably some gaps. It's probably not perfect, but here it's not perfection that we look for. It's more having tools to measure what we do, and then to create targets, having relevant KPIs. I maybe didn't mention, but this is one of the top 5 KPIs of the company. So there is a full engagement from the top management, which I'm part of, but also from our board. So it's also clearly a very important initiative in the company. So again, it's not something that we are just cooking in a corner of the lab. It's a big engagement of the company. Everyone in the company is involved on that. So that's also really what makes this journey exciting. You know, it's a company engagement to improve our circularity.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I appreciate your sharing that. And certainly here on CosmoFactory, we like to, provide useful information and resources that listeners can make use of as well. And this CTI tool sounds like something that other beauty makers might be able to use. I'm curious, though, there are many, climate data or climate management platforms available. I'm wondering if there are particular features of this one that made it more practical for a company that's in cosmetics or personal care, or I guess maybe I want to ask if there's anything about the beauty industry, right, that makes our work distinct from other CPG companies when it comes to sustainability management. Was this the CTI tool a particularly good fit for beauty, or can you think about why you chose it? Help us think that through.
No, this has been developed by the different company up front, and I think circularity is not specific to cosmetics. We
Yeah.
are dependent from nature. We are creator of packaging waste. So and we are sourcing different ingredients from the chemical industry, from the mining. I think about the pigments, or sourcing from natural sources. So no, I think it's not specific to cosmetic industry, and knowing that there are. And at Cosmoprof, many of them will be there, but there are some very great companies that have engaged in this type of journey. I think some of them are probably more circular than us. Even they have not made that calculation. The one that thinking about refilling. I think this tool can be used also to explore how circular they are. And I would love that we would be more having this number, because it's a simple number. Everybody's understand a percentage. And if we engage into a race to be almost circular, that will be super exciting, because that will benefit to the planet.
Right, that's some healthy competition, right?
Yes, I think it's a very healthy competition. And I didn't mention, but we got the B Corp certification in July. And we're also part of the B Beauty Coalition. So it's also where we share different good practice, different ideas. So it's also, I think, in this case, why I'm very open to. I have no particular connection with the CTI tool in this company. It's just that it's a tool that allows us to measure and progress and improve. So I think worth for others company to get into this journey. It's allow you to understand what you do, because you need a lot of data to be quite accurate. But you can start very simply with one example, or you can trickle across all across your company. So as I said, we have 300,000 data points. It's quite extensive.
Yeah.
But parallel to that, and maybe what I wanted to also clarify is not being circular is also it doesn't measure the life cycle as it's not measuring the life cycle assessment. It doesn't measure your CO2 emission reduction. So we also have in our strategy the combination of being more circular, but also reducing the CO2 emission. And these have to go hand in hand if we want to really have an impact.
Yeah.
Because you can be very circular, but maybe some ingredients that are renewable, well developed and so on, but coming from very far where you have very, very long supply chain might be not that positive for the environment. So it should go hand in hand, and definitely in Europe we have now more and more regulation that push us to reduce our emissions. So we also are engaged on this CO2 emission. But I think it's very important to to bring that in perspective, it goes hand in hands, and that's also anyway when we select some raw materials to transition away, it's also the CO2 emission impact. Back to the example also with the aluminium pack. We know to create aluminium require a lot of energy, so it's but all of that is going into a clear sustainability strategy.
Yeah, no, that makes very good sense. I appreciate your sharing that. And you've mentioned the aluminum for packaging. You've mentioned moving away from silicones. I'm wondering if there's other data-driven changes that you've made in ingredients or packaging. Forgive me for saying it this way, but that might be a little bit more surprising. Did the data show you anything that you didn't realize?
We were honestly surprised because we have no clue of where we will land in terms of percentage of
Right.
circularity, and we are above 50%, which was great.
That's a good surprise.
Yeah, it was a very good surprise. Not having any benchmark, so it was a bit difficult to say yes, we are. It's great or not, but anyway, above 50% was great. Probably that's what was the most striking.
Yeah.
People understood what means circularity. People get excited to understand more behind, and then you can explain, because definitely all these concepts are maybe not
Yeah.
the simple one.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there were any changes you made to the manufacturing infrastructure to bring the company closer to circularity. Is that a piece of the equation?
Yes, we are with our colleague on manufacturing, for example, have a huge work on batch optimization to, for example, simplify the cleaning step in between the vessels. And we are revisiting some of the principle of formulation to reduce, which is also connected to CO2 emission. But reducing the cleaning is reduce the quantity of water we use for cleaning, and then that obviously the water is treated afterwards, but it's anyway has an impact, and there is not going into details, there is some loss. So it's this water, even it's treated, there is some loss, and it has an impact on the let's say percentage of linearity. So we want to do that. Water is important as well, so it's also why we want to reduce.
Yeah.
And it's the batch optimization is a big project ongoing. It will have an improvement from a circularity point of view, and also from an efficacy on utilizing best the different equipment. So this also drives many positive benefits into the company. We might, I can't remember, they have made the calculation, we will make some savings as well. So sometimes there is some extra cost, but by revisiting the way we work, you can really optimize some processes.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I appreciate that example. And one last question here. In an earlier conversation, you shared with me that a statement like 30% less waste can be more meaningful to the end consumer than it might be to say 30% less carbon emissions. I'm wondering if you can talk a bit about how your work informs consumer marketing and how companies maybe along the supply chain can be involved really in this sustainability education and sharing accurate information with consumers.
Yeah. The point was we back to circularity. We used some upcycle ingredient from the forest industry, it's tile oil, to produce, not us, but with some partners, some plastic that will be used for our jar, 50 ml jar. They are bio-based, basically. And we have reduced the weight by 44%. So we still have 50 ml of product inside, but less packaging. Very complex to explain in terms of life cycle assessment and CO2 emission reduction, which was 38%, but the weight was 44%. Very simple. People understand there is less of pack. It's lighter, so there's less emission. It's also what we didn't communicate much, but it's reduced as we reduce the size. We can put twice more boxes per pallet, so we know we need twice less truck to transport that into different stores. So yes, the supply chain upfront is we are trying to source more and more closely to reduce the impact. We are also asking a lot to our supplier more and more data on what is the journey of where they source the ingredients, having not just them our first contact, but understand the full journey. It's super, super important for us because we build more and more data, also for transparency reason. And then on the downstream, making sure that the supply chain is optimized. We have been, reducing also air freight. We are selling in China, also a bit in the US. So now so all of that has an impact on the CO2 emission and as well will improve our circularity. But yes, it's not just we will be able to be more circular thanks to especially our supplier, because that's where we can impact. But at the end of life, if we improve the recyclability of the packaging, we can really have a big impact. And that's where some company, for example, consider refilling, so getting back the packaging to reuse, and it's one also aspect of the circularity. So yeah, again, I'm hope more and more will start calculating the circularity. I'm sure some company are really, really good.
Yeah, no,
And
that will
even
be exciting to
so
see.
that's okay.
Exciting to see everyone's numbers there. Well, Alain, the passion you have for your work is very evident. I've enjoyed speaking with you here today on the CosmoFactory podcast. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for listening. If you find the CosmoFactory podcast useful, please take a moment to leave us a 5-star review and share your thoughts so even more cosmetic industry professionals can discover the CosmoFactory. I'm Deanna Utrusky. Please join me again next Tuesday for a new episode of the CosmoFactory podcast.